Welcome to tonight's book talk. I am Melissa Peters, and I'm joined by Samantha Osei.
Hi, everyone.
Do you want to introduce yourself at all?
Sure. I'm Samantha Osei. I am a writer. I like to write fantasy, and right now I am working on a book that happens to be a romantic suspense.
Oh, yeah, and I have published one book. It's a series. It's in a series called Salvation Hill's Haunting, and the book itself is called House on Highland Road. It is cozy horror, YA. Yeah. Should we jump right into this month's book?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So this month's book features Beauty and the Blade by author S.C. Grayson. A short blurb of it is that Contessa is the daughter of the chief of police in this alternative historical retelling of Beauty and the Beast. We start the book with Contessa's marriage to the Beast, leader of the gang called the Lion. Under her father's advice, Contessa is going undercover to ferret out the Beast's secret. At first, he lives up to the name given to him by the public, but very soon, Contessa realizes that there's more to him and to all the other cursed or talented than meets the eye. She has to decide to continue living with the knowledge she's been raised with or give in to the fantastical truth the beast, Nate, exposes her to.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hope I didn't give anything away. Um, we'll try not to go into any spoilers for anyone who's watching this, but we can't make promises not to spoil anything.
Right.
But
Try to
we're
warn
usually
you
very
if
good.
we'll try to warn you if it's a spoiler. So
Yeah, we're usually more vague than anything else. How do you normally feel about retellings? Do you like them or do you not like them?
um, I don't really do a lot of retellings. I do ones that are kind of like not retellings, but maybe um, have some similar aspects of a fairy tale or something, but not an actual noted retelling. So this is probably my first official retelling that I read.
I love retellings. Mercedes Lackey had a like the 500 Kingdom series or something, and I discovered it when I don't know if they're retellings, but she does branch off into retelling.
Okay.
I discovered that when I was in high school and immediately fell in love. I was like raised on like the red and blue books of fairy tales,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so I found this retelling that was like for a grown up, and I loved it. So
I guess the question I have though, and this is spontaneous, so what makes a retelling versus kind of utilizing a similar story arc?
I think they're I think both of those would be retellings to an extent.
Okay.
I don't know. I find like retellings typically take the story and just twist it to the author's new perspective.
Mm.
Um, I think I expect when I read a retelling, I expect to kind of know what the storyline is, but to be surprised along the way.
Okay. Okay. That's a good explanation of it.
I had to really think that one through.
You're like,
Right. If I burst out laughing, it's because Alec is in his thunder jacket and he is attempting to climb into the litter box.
well, you know.
It's the cutest thing ever. Okay, I'll focus. Nobody cares about my cat, except me. Did you find this retelling effective, and did it meet your expectations?
Well, since I haven't read a retelling, it met my expectations because I just figured it was going to be like Beauty and the Beast, and for me, it had enough of that, and in some scenes, I felt it was like almost exactly like the Disney version of Beauty and the Beast, um, but in other areas, it was nothing like it. So it had enough of similarity to me that it met my expectations. And
Mm-hmm.
what about yourself? You said it didn't quite do
Yeah,
that.
I kind of wish she had played more into the actual uh, tropes of Beauty and the Beast. Like, she hit some of them, but I kind of wanted more Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
Um,
Is there like a certain
the library, but now it disappeared from my brain, and I don't know what I was going to say.
was there like a certain aspect of Beauty and the Beast that didn't come through for you? I mean, if you're into retellings, you already know about Beauty and the Beast, so I guess that wouldn't be a spoiler if we talked about that, right?
That's true. Um, the romance, I think, when you really get down into Beauty and the Beast, it's really quite creepy. Um, but still, they have that slow burn, that building romance that almost begins from the moment they meet. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't really feel like I felt that in this one, just because of the fact that Contessa's going in to catch the beast in a crime. Um, there wasn't that spark of romance from the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and there was romance in the book, but maybe not as much as I would have liked.
Got it. Or expected from that kind of retelling,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
That story retelling. Okay, that's fair.
Did you like the book overall?
I did. It took me quite a long time to get into it though, and I mean, in reality, if I had not been reading this for to talk about it, I it probably would have been on a lower pile to finish later.
Hmm.
Not necessarily I do not finish, but just to finish later because it felt really slow in the beginning. But once I hit like that 40% mark, it started like the action started to come in and more of I guess what makes this book, a decent retelling for me kind of started happening.
Yeah,
So
I also found it a little bit slower than what I normally read, but I was invested enough that I think I gave myself 2 weeks to read it because with my schedule, I'm really bad at finishing books on time. But I think I finished it in about a week because I kept every night. I'm like, well, I'm going to go read my 20 pages that I need to read of the book, and then I'd find myself at like the 50-page mark, and I'm like, whoops, read too many pages. So,
right, right.
yeah, kind of sucked me in.
Yeah. It
Um,
wasn't a difficult read.
hmm.
So it was kind of slower in the beginning. So
Yeah, yeah, and it makes sense. Belle in Beauty and the Beast is trapped in the castle and is just exploring the castle, and the same similar type of thing happens at the beginning too. So,
right.
did you have a favorite part of the book? I didn't think of this one through. I don't know what mine is.
Um there were a couple of things I thought were kind of cute. There's a kind of a scene where um Nate is getting undressed and he's dropping all of the knives. So you'll find out that he has a lot of knives on him. And I just thought it was kind of funny. So, it was like he's dropping things and making noises and he's like, oops, sorry. So I felt that scene was fairly well done and it did make me chuckle. So that was probably anytime that he was like it was noting that his knife there are so many knives. I just envisioned this character of like knife, 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 like wherever you could hide a knife, I imagine Nate had a knife
Hmm.
there. So that's kind of I thought that was kind of cool.
I was going to say I enjoyed the fight scenes because I like conflict. But there is a part very similar to that where Kristoff pulls a gun from a very unexpected place,
Oh, right.
and
Yes. Like, whoa, didn't know one could fit there.
yeah,
Mhm.
that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have a favorite part per se, but
Well, I mean,
um,
that made you laugh, so that could be your favorite part.
yeah, we'll go with that.
Why not?
During that part also, I was like, how do they like this housekeeper is amazing. Like they clean up in the rafters. That's crazy.
Right.
Uh, there's no dust drifting down. Like I need to find out who the housekeeper is and hire them.
Right. Exactly. I need one of those.
Yeah,
Maybe two, and I have a small apartment.
yeah, one for each of my cats.
Right.
Would you read another book by this author?
Um, I'm not sure. Because I'm not necessarily into retellings, those are not the first thing that I go to. Um, but I wouldn't be opposed to reading another one. It wouldn't be like,
Hmm.
oh, heck no, I'm not going to do it. If somebody suggested it, or, they're like, oh, hey, like this one I felt was even better than the one that you already read. Yeah, I might give it a try.
Yeah.
And you?
Bailey said hi. I don't know if
Oh,
he's still
hey.
there, but
Hi,
hi,
Bailey.
Bailey, if you're there.
It looks like he
Like, we'll be
popped
talking books. We're
Yeah,
talking
he's like,
books, not working. We don't want to be a part of this.
he's like, I don't want to read books. Not right now.
Yeah, I would probably read another book by her. I'm not sure. I feel like everything was wrapped up enough with the characters from this book that I don't know that I would go ahead and read more in the series, but I'd give the author a chance. I might even pick up, depends on my mood. If I'm in the mood for a retelling, um, pick up the next book in the series. But
Right.
I feel like they're probably standalone.
Well, I don't know. Possibly. I think this one, I don't know. That's probably one of your questions that this could be a series. No, because they're called this one says the Talented Book One. So
Hmm.
so there must be a series.
Yeah, I think I got rid of that question because I was like, the cover says book one. So
Right. Yeah. So but the other ones you think are the other ones that she wrote? Is that what you're
I
referring to?
think so. Yeah, because so Nate is, I think I said he's a member of a gang called the Lions. So there's a whole bunch of different gangs in this different London.
Right.
And the next one has to do with Crimson, I think is her name, or Scarlet. Maybe Scarlet. That's a better name than Crimson. Um, sorry if anyone's named Crimson. Um, but she is part of a gang or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So I feel like it's maybe probably they probably twine together.
Right.
I guess maybe I'll have to read the next one and find out.
Right. Click the link on the back of your ebook.
Well, I have the physical book. I don't have the ebook.
Oh, see, there are benefits of having an ebook. You just click the link.
Yeah, it's so much more fun to read paper.
Right.
Did you feel like everything was resolved to you? Was there anything that you felt like was outstanding? Anything you needed wrapped up?
Like I felt a lot of things were unresolved. Um,
Hmm.
and maybe I didn't catch that they were resolved. So a lot about like the children, like what happened to all the children, um, and I I know that she resolved aspects about the father, but it wasn't resolved in a way that I liked. Let's put it that way. Like I felt there were still some things that just didn't quite sit well with me about the father, and so that's why I was like, eh. So yes, technically it was resolved, but I felt there could have been some other aspects that would have brought it would have made it richer,
Hmm.
a richer story.
I felt like it was resolved. I guess I would have liked to see what happened between Kristoff and his love interest.
Mhm.
Um, and I was a little disappointed. I feel like the ending was resolved, but I was a little disappointed that, without giving spoilers, well, either way, um, this may or may not be a spoiler for anyone who's watching this later. I was a little disappointed that Contessa wasn't pregnant at the end of the book, and well, I guess that's not a spoiler at all. Um,
The spoiler is that she's not pregnant at the end of the book.
that is a spoiler. Okay. Well, I was kind of like, oh, that would have been that's like the cutest little ending.
I wouldn't have expected that.
Oh,
Like,
really?
yeah,
I was
that's
expecting it.
really interesting.
Yeah.
Is that part of Beauty and the Beast? I haven't
No,
seen
not
that
at all.
also. Okay.
Little
Well,
wolf cubs running around.
right. Even though he's technically not a beast, he's a human,
True.
just with a talent.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Let's clarify that they're both human.
Yes, they are both human.
Good.
Yeah,
Um, how about the structure and flow? Did you find it flowed well?
I was able to follow everything pretty clearly,
Yeah.
um, and outside of it being a little slow in the beginning, everything else just kind of flowed from one scene to another. There's no like jarring, you know, memory shifts or there. I mean, there's a few there's some head hopping that I was like, oh, suddenly we're in like someone else's head, even though it's third person. It's still was it
I
third
don't
person?
remember that at all.
Yeah, there. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, where are we?
Hmm.
So, um, but outside of that, I don't think most people
I didn't pick it up.
would pick it up. So, um, it probably just because it's something that I'm very aware of in my own writing.
Hmm.
So,
Well, now I want to reread it, see if I can catch it. Um,
so,
yeah.
but other than that and thing, I thought it flowed pretty well.
Hmm. Thinking back, there was a lot that happened in it. It's not a very long book, and there's still quite a bit of there were a lot of events.
Hmm. Yeah, she probably could have elongated it, and gave more description, um, and did more of the like actually showing what was happening.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of summary, and that's why it made it quite short with the number of ac- actions that were happening throughout the book.
Yeah, and like I was saying, that I wish there was more romance. Um,
Mhm.
I kind of wish there was again a bit more of that romance thrown in, because it's more abrupt in this book.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it doesn't mean it wasn't happening behind the scenes, but I like when I'm reading a book, I want to see it firsthand.
Right, right, and and for those looking to read this, it's not a spicy book.
Hmm.
So I would you? It's not necessarily. It's not behind closed doors, but the one scene is pretty vague.
Yeah, it maybe PG-13. I don't know.
Possibly PG.
It describes the act, but
It
in a
doesn't get
tasteful. Like
detailed.
it was written in a way to show that their love was growing. I think
Right,
they
right,
weren't there to meet a need; they were falling in love.
right. So yeah, it was. So if anyone is coming back and watching this, and that's important to you, that's something to note.
Yeah, not a spicy book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tastefully done. Um, I was surprised. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to spoil anything, but I was surprised by the twist at the end. I knew we had to. How do I say this? I knew it wasn't going to be as obvious as it was set up to
Yes.
be, but I wasn't expecting the her mother's murderer to be who it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was a twist. But I think it was more of a twist because there wasn't a whole lot of information about the character.
That's true. Yeah.
And it was almost like um, avoiding adding anything about the character in order to surprise at the end. Um, and I think that that happens with a lot of kind of mystery.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, make it so it seems like this is an unimportant character.
Okay, so noted. When I write my next mystery, make them a main character and don't tell anybody until the end.
Right?
What is that called? A false narrative or false
Or
narrator?
unreliable narrator.
There we go.
Aha.
Oh, well, now you can't read my next book.
That's right. I already know.
What character stood out the most to you? I struggled. I was thinking about this one last night, and I don't know.
I like, what's her name? Is it Rosen?
Yeah.
I think that's how you would pronounce it. I like her because she's kind of like the badass female that she's, she's been in with these guys, this gang since the beginning, and she's kind of the mom, but she also does the training, fighting and whatnot. So, and she's got red hair, and even though you can't tell, I used to have red hair, so I could, put myself in her place of being a badass um, ninja warrior kind of person.
That's fun. I feel like I wish I knew more about Julia and Gregor.
Hmm.
So they're
Yeah,
the servants, and for the longest time, I thought Gregor had magic. Like I thought his magic was healing, but it's not.
right.
Or maybe I'm confused. Maybe it is. And then Julia, I thought she was gonna have a bigger role than she did. Like for the first bit, she was there, and then she kind of like faded into the background.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if I
She, I
was
mean,
to,
she came back a little bit, but she was not
Mhm.
of a prominent character.
Yeah, I would have liked to know more about them. I know that they were gang members that Nate rescued, but I'd like a little bit more of their story.
Right. Um, I don't remember. Was Gregor a rescue like he's a dog? That sounds awful.
Um, I assume he is.
I don't
I feel like
recall
maybe
reading that. That doesn't mean it wasn't in the book, though.
yeah,
So,
I feel like I read that he was, but I could have just made that up.
okay. So
I feel like everyone within their ranks was.
that would make a lot of sense based on what they were trying to do. So,
Hmm.
okay. Yeah. Yeah. And apparently, and I don't know if you saw in the back matter of your book, but in the ebook, um, because it links to, I think, to her website, there is um, a reader magnet that is the story between Gregor and
Oh, okay.
his love interest. So,
I might have to go
yeah, see,
subscribe to the newsletter.
right. Um, so I thought that was interesting. Just from a writer's perspective of, oh, that's a good idea. If it's
Mhm.
not like directly related to this book, but it's tangential
Well,
and
and I already
something.
said that something. Well, now everyone knows. All of our zero listeners. um, I already said that I wished I knew more about that relationship. So,
Right, right.
well, now I do.
Yeah.
Well, I
See,
will.
now you
I
can.
will.
Hmm. Hmm.
Where else were we? Um, I guess I've already answered the next question, which is which characters, if any, did you want to know more about? I didn't mean to answer the next question, but I did.
Um, I wanted to know more. Is it Joseph? Like
Hmm. Yeah.
what? he played an important part, but it was. I think I would have liked to have known more of his backstory in relation to Contessa, because it almost seemed like they used to have a romantic
Yeah,
relationship. How I read it.
I kept
So
thinking he was going to play the Gaston character.
yes, yes, and if that's what he was supposed to do, it didn't come out in that way. Definitely
Hmm.
not as prideful and boastful as Gaston, for sure.
Yeah.
So, um, I think his story and understanding like the relationship both with between him and Contessa and with his boss, which is Contessa's father, like just all of that and how he why he saw the talented negatively,
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think that would have been kind of cool. It would have been really cool to see kind of that aspect as well.
Yeah, you're right. I would. And while you were talking, I just thought of an even twistier ending that could have happened, but I don't want to spoil anything. So
That's
I
the
might
one
have
I
to tell
already
you
thought of.
offline.
Did you just think of the one that I already thought of?
Maybe. Well, let's talk about it offline though, because I don't want
Yeah.
to ruin the actual ending.
We could just make up
Um,
an ending. We can write the alternative ending to this. That would be
to
interesting.
add on to it. Hmm.
Fan fiction.
Yeah, there we go. I have enough writing to do in my real life that I don't know that I have time for fan fiction.
Good point.
Okay. Um, the next question is, how did the setting support the story?
Well, the underground supported the story, um, and London Underground. So it I don't know how to explain that
Oh,
without doing much.
interesting. So, do you think I thought it was a an alternative historical retelling? Do you think it was actually meant to be in the future?
I hadn't thought either way. I forgot it was London. So I was just reading it as a city that had tunnels underground.
Okay,
Yeah. So
interesting.
I mean
Um,
it could be for sure.
if it was in the future, they really regressed um, to using carriages instead of cars and stuff like that.
Right.
But who's to say that won't happen when we use up all our
Our
natural
resources.
resources and we have to
Right.
figure out how to get by?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think usually I don't think about kind of the time in the yeah, like the historical setting unless it's very specific history that happens like and it's really made part of the story. And I don't to me it wasn't that wasn't the goal of this book.
Hmm.
So I didn't really read it. That's why I was kind of like, oh, it's London.
Yeah, I love steampunk. Um, and so I just assumed it was like a Victorian type setting.
Hmm.
And so I thought it was historical and I was wishing there was more world building. And now if it was set in the future, yeah. But I'm
Yeah,
very
and
now I'm wishing there
maybe
was more world building because if it was set in the future, I really want to delve into that world.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, just a thought that it could be, but I
Hmm.
think more it's just an alternate universe. You
Alternate.
know,
Am I saying it right? Alternative or is it just alternate?
I think it's alternate universe.
Alternate. Okay. Well, I
Yeah,
made up a word. Well, it's not a made up word. It's a real word. I'm just
yeah.
misusing another English word.
Hey, I do it all the time. That's what English is made for.
Yeah.
That's why we have so many words.
That's why it's so hard.
That's right.
Did the setting seem real to you? Like, could you imagine it, and was it well described?
Yeah,
So, final question.
mostly I could. Um, I do think she did a pretty good job at describing each scene. There's no floating heads in the middle of nowhere.
Mhm.
She definitely was able, if it was in the house, I could see all the different things that were in the house that were important, if it was underground, or times in the square, for,
Yeah, she described the crowds very well.
yeah. So I definitely think she was very strong in that.
Hmm. Yeah, when you talk about the square, like every time they were in the square and there's a crowd, like I could see the crowd, like
Right, exactly. You're like, oh,
I the
there's.
crush of people and the loud noises, and
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, not necessarily what they were there to see, because I've
Right,
never seen one except on TV. Um, and I wasn't the greatest at imagining that, but that's okay. I don't need to be good at that.
right, exactly.
That one's on me, not her. Oh, Bailey is sorry, Bailey, we've been ignoring you. Um, he said, "Yep, he's here." And then he said, "I am still at work and need the company." Well, you're welcome to listen in and join us.
20 minutes ago, if he's still here.
No, that's funny. Sorry, Bailey.
I saw it. I just was like, well, it's not really prudent to our conversation. So,
Well, that is all we had, I think. Unless, is there anything else you'd like to chat about?
no, I think, well, we didn't talk anything about the talents.
Hmm.
So, and that's one thing that it's almost like, so the talent that everyone had was used in order to, um,
Persecute?
I'm sorry, what was that?
To persecute?
No, 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 no. I'm talking about how, like, it seemed convenient, I should say, that certain talents were given to the people
They were given to?
they were given to. Yes. So, it's not like where you could have given a talent of being able to catch a speeding bullet, right? Which could be handy in certain situations, but not in all situations. So
Excuse
I
me.
I kind of thought that was, it was almost a, I don't know what the right word is because my words are escaping me as well right now.
A cop out?
Maybe it was just convenient, right?
I,
Like,
sorry, I inhaled my own spit and now I want to cough really badly. Um, I think it makes sense. Like, yes, it was convenient, but at one point they're talking about how the more extravagant, like the person who could fly,
mhm,
the more extravagant gifts were people who were being persecuted. So the more it makes sense that the more subtle gifts would be overlooked.
right? Yeah, I guess I would expect that in a certain number of years, one would experience that talent, not just after.
Right. Yeah, I do wish that was foreshadowed more.
This is where we get really vague, so it's not to spoil anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just, I think it's just more of how the specific talents given, I think they could have been a little bit more different, right?
Hmm.
Because really it's like intuition,
Right. Yeah.
right? And that's not really a talent. everyone has it, right? So, but as far as how to utilize it in certain situation, that's kind of a
But
talent or
well, I
empathy.
guess, but some people have stronger intuition. Like at one point when they're at the square, um, if I was in that position, I would have been uncomfortable just being there because of the executions, not because of what was about to happen next. I would have. I guess
Right,
that's where listening to your intuition comes in handy
right,
and being in tune with it.
right. It was just one of those things. I was like, oh, I would have liked it if it was something that's just a little bit more uncommon, right? Where
Hmm.
because I think that would have added a little bit more of a twist.
Yeah.
But I mean, it worked out well. It flowed with the rest of the story, so it's not like it made it a bad story or anything.
Hmm.
So,
For her own survival, it would have had to be subtle. But you're right, to just have it happen suddenly one day
hmm
um, doesn't make it could have been foreshadowed better, I think.
and not to have someone even think that was a possibility
Hmm.
in her.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, we're
So,
being vague again on purpose.
yeah, we're being vague on purpose.
I didn't even almost catch it. So
Now the goal is to read the book so you understand what we're being vague about and see if you can figure it out.
yeah, there you go. I promise you will.
You will. So,
I am really wishing. So you've already picked your book for next month. I'm really
yes.
wishing I hadn't started the book I am now reading because I'm not stopping. It's very good. I wish I'd picked it. It's called The Carrow Haunt, and I'm 14% in. So far, I highly recommend it.
Well, I mean, we can do that for your month. That's fine.
But I'm already reading it.
So, you still have to read mine. Or we can do that one. No, I already announced the one that we're
Yeah.
doing. So,
I'll pick a different one because I'm going to keep reading it.
okay. Well, I mean, if you change your mind, I'm okay with it.
Okay. Well, I'm
So,
recommending it to anyone who might watch this as
okay.
well.
And what was it called again? Who's it by?
The Carrow Haunt by Darcy Coates.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I
then,
hoping to
oh,
be scared a little bit.
oh, yeah, I was thinking we should do a horror. So,
I can find more horror. I have many books downloaded on my Kindle that I haven't read yet.
well, there we go. That might be
Okay.
a good prompt for you to find one if you don't
Oh,
already have another
wow.
idea. So,
No other ideas.
yeah. Um,
I'll make us
well,
big.
before we leave, maybe since you have our next read behind you, so it's Project Hail Mary. This is one of the covers. I have
Perfect.
another one, but I have
Fun.
somehow already lost my book. So I'll find it somewhere or buy a new one.
Yeah.
Um, so by Andy Weir. Andy Weir also wrote The Martian. A lot of you probably seen the movie if you haven't read the book. And from what I understand, Project Hail Mary is going to be a movie. I think
Okay.
they're in the process. I don't know for sure. But I've heard that on some of my research of the book. So,
Hmm. This says life affirming.
life affirming.
Yeah. No,
That's,
the ultimate page turner and brilliantly enjoyable.
well, I've heard that before. So let's hope so. So
Yeah.
that book talk will be on my channel the last Tuesday in May. So be sure to join us for that. Um, and I think that's a wrap for this book talk this month.
Yeah. Sorry, Bailey, we're not staying on later, but thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
I hope you
definitely.
get out of work soon.
Yeah, it's 2 hours earlier there. It's still late, but
6:41?
yeah, it's 6:41. And no, Well, sorry, Bailey. We have to head out. I've got to go back to work myself. So,
Oh yeah, right. I won't hold you up then.
no, you're good. We're good.
All
All
right.
right, everyone. Appreciate you joining us, and let us know what your thoughts are on this particular book and any recommendations that you have for us.
And we'll talk to you again on Tuesday.
Yeah, definitely.
I almost phrased that differently. Bye. Oh, Bailey says have a good one. Bye everyone.
Bye.